Good evening everyone. Welcome to this full council meeting on Monday 24th of January. Firstly, brief health and safety introduction. We are not expecting a fire drill, but if the alarm does sound, please make your way to the nearest fire exit. The emergency exit at the back of the chambers will take you across the roof and down the fire escape. Take care as this may be slippery if wet. Or you can exit the way you enter the building through the police station and out of the front and back door. If it's not possible to get to an exit, then the lift lobby is a safety zone in the event of fire. Under no circumstances should you use the lift. Please make sure that all mobile phones and devices are switched off or on silent. Any individual wishing to video or audio record the meeting may do so. I must inform you that this meeting is being videoed by the council and will be uploaded to the council's YouTube channel. Please remember, anyone wishing to speak in the public participation part of the meeting should raise their hand and wait for me as chair to gesture you to speak. You'll be given a maximum of 4 minutes to make your representation, which should be aimed at me as chair. Please state the agenda item which you will be speaking about. Through me as chair, council members or officers may then respond to your points if necessary. You will not automatically be able to reply unless I as chair allow you to do so. The full public participation policy and other helpful policies are available. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible to enable others to follow the meeting. Anyone present felt to be behaving unacceptably will be excluded from the meeting by the chair. Any member of the public looking to leave the meeting should wait for the council officer to escort them into the building. Thank you. Next, we'll just have a moment of silence to collect our thoughts before the meeting. Thank you. Item 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence.
Councillors Laura, Burchett and Webb.
Item 2, disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interests and interests other than pecuniary interests as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and Localism Act 2011 in relation to the matters on the agenda. Item 3, public participation. To do with any questions or brief representations from members of the public in accordance with Standing Order 3 and the Seaford Town Council policy. Thank you.
I'll go first.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a query about the clerk's report, which is item 6, and it's about 1.31 and 1.30, which I gather applies to the amended seafront improvement plan, 712, which is about the Cliff Gardens, coastal erosion, landscape garden and trail. Right? Now, 130 just doesn't make sense. I think there must be some typos there or something. I'm not quite sure what's implied. Something's missing. It might be to do with the concrete block, so I was trying to sort of imagine what it might be. So can we have the clarification, please, of what that is?
I
I don't know what page it's on, I just took it off the website. 131, it makes sense, 130 makes sense, but 131 doesn't.
Yeah, I think my apologies. I think 131 was actually left in from the last report. And it wasn't deleted, so it was previous one was
Okay,
extensive.
Right, because it said in there that it was going to be discussed tonight. I presume it isn't going to be discussed
No, it
tonight.
isn't, no.
No, okay. I just want to say that having recently been made aware of more of the details of this plan, I think it's an excellent idea. And I'd like to commend the Cliff Garden residents and all the other people on the commitment this will need and all the work that they've actually put into preparing it already. And I do hope that SCC officers and councillors are going to offer them lots of support to complete this plan, because it will bring so much to the town. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Belated Happy New Year as well, and good evening, Madam Mayor. Not a lot to say tonight, which is unusual for me. Basically, agenda item 6, mentions of the Martello toilets again. It's come up on Facebook. I just wondered if councillors, not tonight, but may consider going back to the draft that they looked at and approved last year, to sort of redesign it maybe, to make it, as we haven't got that much money, to redesign it and maybe make it more basic and more functional. I wonder if councillors would make that a consideration. Secondly, as a resident, I'm rather concerned around, I mean, the agenda item, sorry, Madam Chair, is between 8 and 10. I'm concerned about the transfer of 195,000 from earmarked reserves to the general reserves. As a resident, that does seem a little bit extortionate, on the back of the fact that we've got a preset rise of 9.94%, nearly 10% increase. In today's austerity cuts and budgets and everything else, it seems rather steep for the residents. I know it does, 10% doesn't sound a lot, but if you're watching your pennies, any increase on any household bill is tight. And also the fact is that everything goes up, but your wages doesn't rise with the inflation. So I'm a bit concerned about was a bit surprised about how much the increase was. And just finally, the community right to bid, you've got that as an item on the agenda at number 16. You're reconsidering the list. I really hope you as councillors keep what's already on the list and maybe add if you've got any other ideas. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that, Sylvia. Just a couple of quick things. You mentioned the amount of money going into general reserves. The amount going into general reserves is actually only 16,000.
Oh, I thought it was 195,000.
No, I
Oh,
don't know where
that's
that
that
figure's
one.
coming from. Yeah, sorry. Just wanted to make sure we got that right.
Sorry, one mistake.
Yeah, it's all right. There is quite a sum of money going into earmarked reserves, which are different.
Yes.
Money is actually, for example, still money, for example. If we get that
Yeah.
for purpose of
Oh, is that the list? Sorry.
Yeah, that's the list.
That's
So-
the list.
Yeah, so a lot of that money is money that's been acquired for either, like the 106 money, for example, for the skate park. We're projecting that we're going to put 50k of that into an earmarked reserve next year, but it's got to be spent that way. We can't put it into the general fund.
No.
And we can't use it for the council tax laws. It has to be spent
Yes.
on that project.
A
Yeah.
capital project.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the actual amount we project is just over 16,000.
Right.
So not quite the figures.
No. I'm
Right.
sorry. My mistake.
What was there was another one. I think on the assets. We'll come to that later. But the concern officers have is that each one of those assets, as your friend knows, takes quite a long time to progress an application. And I think because they take so long, they don't get done.
Right.
And I think it is a case of saying these are the priority ones. later tonight. That's what I'll be saying to
But,
members.
sorry, can I just ask one question? The asset list that you'll be discussing, are they not already registered?
No. The only ones that
Oh,
are
you're still in the
registered-
process of doing that?
Yeah, that's the problem. You see, it takes so
Oh.
long, and we did have a volunteer who was doing them for us, and that dried up for various reasons, not a criticism, but to progress them
Takes time.
takes a lot of time. And for example, we have a member of staff who works 2 days a week. They could spend a year getting those done.
I didn't realise, I thought were
No.
already registered.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
So I think it is a case of prioritising them
Yeah.
later. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you.
Item 4, to note the minutes approving or not approving the recommendations as required. So if everybody is happy with the minutes, can we note it, please?
Second block.
Can I have a show of hands of noting the report? Thank you. Item 5, civic update report. 5A, to note my report, unless there's any questions. So you can all note it. Thank you. And then the young mayor's report, as Dominic is not here. James, do you got anything to say? No? Okay, thank you. So we go on to the Fox report.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of highlights if I can, Chair. I think it's worth mentioning, despite the weather, what a good job the team did of managing to keep Christmas magic going. It was pretty cold, I can say that. But they did a very good job to keep something going, and we got a lot of really good positive feedback to that from the public and from the stall holders. So that was really encouraging for them all. On the skate park, I think it's worth mentioning there as well that we've ordered the contract now, so that's been commissioned and we're due on site in March. And again, the team have done an excellent job of getting additional funding, 20,000 from PCF New Wave and Seaford Lions, and we have got another grant of 40,000, and although I've emailed the councillors to let you know about that, we're not allowed to publicly say where that's come from yet. It's part of their conditions, so yeah, we've got another 40k from another body as well, which means that we can do everything at the skate park that we plan to do. So that'll be an excellent facility for the summer. Just mentioning the view has done exceptionally well over the December period. Take-ins were almost 50% higher than last year at the same period, and anyone who tried the food there over Christmas, including all the staff at our Christmas party, can vouch for the fact that the food was absolutely excellent. I don't think anybody in the room when we were there had any complaints whatsoever. It was superb. The staffing update, we obviously have two new members of staff, and we've got Joe working on the temporary contract as well. Two of the new staff are here, Colin and Isabel, have both settled in really well, doing an excellent job. It's good to have them in the team. We still continue to invest in training with staff because we know that's really important, so there's lots of training ongoing, and recently Ben started his level 3 in NVQ in greenkeeping, which is really good, so he's been able to do that for a while. And both of the greenkeepers passed the spraying certificate, which is very useful for Simon. It means he doesn't have to do all the spraying. Sorry, I've already mentioned that one. So, neighbourhood plan team are doing an excellent job. There has been a lot of work as a result of the second Regulation 14 consultation, mostly from feedback from statutory bodies rather than the public, in particular from the District Council. We've worked through that, and I've had meetings at the District Council as well to resolve a couple of issues which the planning department, the head of planning, has been excellent in helping us get those sorted out, so that's been really useful. We've also had meetings regarding the Newlands development. I'm due to meet with the head of planning again in the near future we have got a few concerns that the developers may try and, as we suspected, try and not fulfil all of the 106 obligations. But the district council, again, I can't fault them, have been in touch to ask that I am involved in the meetings with them and with the chief planning officer to try and make sure we secure everything we can from the development for the town. The last thing I'd just like to mention is just that it may not seem that important, but getting the plain pitch strategy progressing is really important, and that'll actually be useful as well when it comes to defending the 106 requirements in the Newlands Agreement, 106 Agreement, because we know it's going to demonstrate there's a shortage of plain pitches in the town. We've been asking for this for a while. It's been done now. I've spoken to the consultants on the phone, been doing it. And that'll be a really useful piece of evidence for us to progress grant applications as well for our own facilities, to improve them or to extend them if necessary. But just on that, I should say we've changed things slightly in that we've tried to pursue grants more over the last 12 months, and that's been successful. We trained a couple of staff to do that, and in the last 6 months we've now secured £65,000 in grants. Which is brilliant, you know. So and the team are really keen to take that further and look to secure more grants in the years to come. So it's a really positive step forward. I'm happy to answer any questions on the report or any other matters.
Councillor Lake.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Reverting to Christmas Magic, the first item that you mentioned, certainly I would agree it was a tremendous success, and moving the stores into Clinton Hall I thought was a great decision to make. Regarding the Christmas lights though, switching them on at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, pretty much when the event's over, seems to be rather late, particularly when it's a dreary day as it was, and perhaps we could have a lighting ceremony first thing in the morning rather than 10 o'clock in the morning. And also leaving the lights on during the day over the Christmas period, I think would be a good move, because it's often very dreary and it cheers up the town no end.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, yeah, leading on from that, we could go back to just doing the light switch on a Friday night. Like we used to, but just have, the lights being switched on. I've got Councillor Foreman first, and then...
James, the words VAT and the golf club don't go hand in hand always, but I'll just give a bit more explanation as to the what's happened here. We've got a refund of 125,000. Where will that money go for that refund? Can we use it in other areas of the council? Mainly perhaps to look at some of that funds to come in to help sort out the welfare toilets and things like that. Obviously it's good food for, and then obviously calculating that money going forward, can we use that to perhaps fund the welfare toilets? Thanks.
The explanation for the money is that 2 or 3 years ago we became aware of a court case where, generally speaking, you don't pay VAT to play sport, but for one reason or another that wasn't the case with golf. And that was challenged a number of years ago by English Golf, and they won the case against the government. But then the government, or the Inland Revenue, produced an advice note on how you go about not charging VAT. And what they said in the advice note is that the case, because the way it was brought, they interpreted that it only applied to golf courses that were non-profit making golf courses, i.e. not commercial enterprises. So not someone who, like, say for example, Donald Trump's course in Aberdeen. That wouldn't be able to qualify. But one members owned or whatever, that qualifies, so they don't have to charge VAT on playing golf. They then clarified it a little bit further at the end of the advisory note, saying that it didn't apply to municipal courses as well. Now, a municipal course by definition is not a commercial enterprise to make profit for people in the same way as Donald Trump's courses. So why they made their exception was a mystery. So it meant we couldn't reclaim the VAT. We were aware that golf courses around us, our competitors in effect, were able to charge more to play golf were taking more of the income from their golf fees than we were, 20% more. So they were gaining 20% more every time they played golf than we were because of that ruling. We did think about challenging it at the time, but the costs were prohibitive. And what we anticipated was that somebody else with deep pockets than us would probably challenge it, and luckily they did. Selby Council, I think it was, Ealing Council, challenged it, and they won. So what that meant was that now municipal courses don't have to charge VAT on golf. So we were then able to make a claim for us to be in that same boat. They don't come and knock on your door and say, here's your money back, and you don't have to charge VAT anymore. You have to actually find out this has happened, and then you have to make an appeal. So we did that, and after several months, it's backdated 4 years, so that's the maximum. So we get our VAT back for the last 4 years. So that money is, in effect, money that's being generated by golf playing members and visitors, the VAT money. So it's exclusively come from people playing golf, no other purpose. Now there is a moral side to it should be reinvested back into the golf. Technically not a legal side, but I think the council's got to be very careful how it manages that. What it does mean is that our projection for this year is that the golf and the View together as an entity will be in profit again. So it's gone, since we took it over, well, since our records go back to 2005-06, golf, despite what people think, has actually produced a surplus to the taxpayers of Seaford of £342,000. Taking into account the years where it was in deficit, it's still in credit to the tune of 342. This will put it in credit by another 14,000 this year. But what we are putting in the budget is that some of that money, not all of it, should be reinvested in the course. One part of it, since we did the budget report, has become even more urgent, and that's the water supply for the irrigation. We were looking at just a borehole, but actually, since we started that project, it's emerged that the tanks failed at the golf course for storing the water for the irrigation system, and also the pumps need repairing. Without that, we won't have a golf course. That cost alone is going to be in the region of 50,000 just to replace those. The borehole is small fry actually in comparison to about 14,000. But that saves us £6,000 a year because we don't have to use water supply water anymore for the golf course. So that pays for itself in a couple of years. So what we're saying in this report is, in the budget, is reinvest in that, and also reinvest in what should have been in the original design of the View, which is an extra space for so we can exclusively rent out the upstairs, and we've still got a spike bar. So we look at a temporary structure, not something expensive, and in the budget we put 40k. So that means that we took 90 out of the 126 going back into the golf. The other 36 in effect is being used to subsidise the council's budget.
Move the beach hut up there from this temporarily.
How would that help, sorry?
Move the beach hut up there temporarily.
Right, I don't think that'd be big enough for a spike bar. Yeah.
Take off you must.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Yeah, we need something a bit bigger than a beach hut. But the costs, we look at a temporary structure because to do something more permanent in reality, we've had a report, we've seen the report, all the councils have got it. The design of the building wasn't the right design, and the easiest thing, there's so many ways to improve it, but you're looking at 150,000 minimum to do the big changes that would be needed to rectify the design failings.
First of all, I'd like to add my personal thanks to members of staff, particularly Gemma and Isabel, for their help with some of the health-related committees and discussions I've had recently. They've been very good and very reliable. The question I've got is about item 128 and possibly linking to item 133 about the playing fields and unions. Because in my discussions about the district council and the health hub proposals, one of the major public concerns is about the significant loss of recreational green space and playing field in the Downs area. And one of the answers I've been given is that land will be available on the Newlands development just across the road. And I wondered, how realistic do we think that is in the timescale? Thank you.
The Newlands development, once it starts, they're not looking to start for another 18 months, the development. And once it starts, it'll take approximately 3 years to deliver the project. It's highly unlikely they would have the football pitch done at the beginning of that project. I would say you're looking towards the end. So the reality is that football pitch, you're looking at probably 5 years, in my honest opinion, but they haven't done a timetable yet. But I can't see it being far different from that, either way. There is other options. Another option would be for that pitch to not be returned, but a large sum of money be handed over to create a pitch elsewhere. But then you think, where do you go? Where do you create it? And as we know from the neighbourhood plan, the town is not awash with spare parcels of land to put a football pitch on. So that would be a challenge. We would, we'd need to look at that, but this is part of the discussions that we're having with the developer at the moment. And the fact that they've actually set aside 18 months from now until then wanting to be on site and be developing is quite a long leading time. So the discussions are not going to move along at an incredibly fast pace. It is going to be a gradual thing over the next few months, perhaps a year. But when I know more, I will be feeding it back to the council.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. Can I just start with the Christmas magic? I would like if the town clerk can bring a report back to the council so we can, for two main things. One, to actually have a formal feedback as to what went well, what didn't go well. I believe that there's a couple of issues about printing the program that goes with that. So again, I think, if you have the formal report, we can actually go through. There are quite as far as I'm aware, there are quite a few issues that needs to be sort of ironed out again for next year. And so I think it may be a formal report, but as to what went well, what didn't go well, and what the officers intend to do going forward would be nice if that can be done, please. Also like to say thank you to the Deputy Town Clerk, Colin, because I know he worked on the VAT response. I think it's quite important that we do say thank you, because if we hadn't had the Deputy Town Clerk, this issue would have been left for the Town Clerk to deal with, and probably be left on the back burner for a few more years. But Colin came on board, and within a few months, he's ran with that, so thank you very much for that. 1.7, talk about the complaints. Again, if you could please expand on that, as what would be the nature of the compliments from is that from the golf itself or the view? Just nice to know more about.
Golf, okay.
Thank you.
All right, I'll deal with the golf first. Probably the best way to sum it up is when we first opened the view, and I obviously regularly go up there to speak to staff, help staff, train, whatever it may be, and to motivate. Sometimes when I went in there, I felt slightly unwelcome. And I think there was a lot of resentment from the golfers towards the council 3 or 4 years ago for a number of different reasons. Some of them baseless, some of them with merit, to be quite honest. When I go up there now, I'm met with golfers saying, hello, how are you? Course was amazing today, and compliments. I can't remember in the last 8 or 9 months coming across a golfer who wants to complain to me. They're going out of the way to come up and compliment the council and the staff who work there. But the main thing that we get so much positive feedback on is the course. The course is exceptional. And it may be that the courses nearby have struggled. We know that courses nearby have struggled, and they've lost 50, 60 members. Our memberships held and slightly increased, while neighbouring courses have reduced by 50 or 60 in the last year. That tells you something. Our course is still producing, when you look at the course in its own right, it's still running at a profit. You can go on the internet and look at any of the golf clubs nearby or registered companies and see that they're running at losses. Lewis, for example, is running a loss of about 50k a year. Their bar takes less than £100,000 in a year for food and beverages. We're up to over £500,000. So it gives you an idea of how much our business has grown in the last 3 or 4 years. And that's because people are happy with what they're getting. And the course has always been very good, but I would say it's exceptional now, to the point that we get people who are paying £1,200–1,500 membership at their course coming along saying it's better than their course already. Whereas they come and play at Seaford, depending on their age, for £400 a year. So if they're a 5-day-a-week golfer. So the comparisons are just incredible, and I get lots and lots of positive feedback on that, as do everybody else up there. One thing I would stress is I think a lot of that is down to the fact we're committed to training the staff, and that works across the board within the View and the golf course, and the staff working well together as a team. It's down to their efforts. They are, and the View and the golf course do an exceptionally well. Christmas Magic, a little bit more, a little bit different, because we have a Christmas Magic committee, and they are empowered to run the event. If we were to bring it into the council, and the council then say, actually we want this different, we want that different, then you're just empowering them. So I think we've got to be very careful how we manage that. I don't mind giving information, but I don't think the council should be making decisions about when we've empowered an organisation to run it, which includes a lot of the traders, so the people who, and some of the people on that committee physically put in hundreds, if not thousands of pounds to the event. So I think we've got to be careful how we manage that. The one about the printing, we are aware of, and it's mentioned in my report, there was a complaint through the Chamber of Trade, but whoever it was who made the complaint didn't make a complaint to us. We don't know who it was. We've asked, but we haven't had a reply. And once we know, we can look into it, what happened to get that. We are aware that of a programme that had probably 40 adverts in, 2 weren't clear. When I mean weren't clear, I mean they weren't as good quality as the rest. We just need to establish how that happened. But lessons learned. The person who did the programme this year is the first time they'd ever done it. So to just get 2 slightly wrong, and it might not be her fault either. Because you're sometimes chasing up adverts, and I've heard the staff doing it. You're chasing up an advert, you say they've got to be in for Monday, and Thursday that week they still aren't in, and you chase them up and hold in the print room because somebody hasn't sent an advert in. And if it comes in last minute, you drop it in, you maybe don't have time to check it as well as you would the rest, and lo and behold, that's the one that's not clear. So it's not always our fault, but we will look at it. Yeah.
Councillor Holman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Mayor even. Yes, on the Christmas Magic, yes, I mean, I think the organisation had to make a good decision to, go into the Plan B mode because of the weather was not really that good that weekend. So, as you know, I was at the blessing of the tree with your good self on the Friday evening. Interesting tree though, that one. I don't know what sort of comments you have. That's for another discussion. But it is an interesting design that was at the Ball Memorial. But that's for another discussion. But generally, I thought the event went well, and I think the report Councillor Latham said that maybe the times of the lighting could be looked in, especially if the weather's. It depends on the weather a lot of the time. But I can see with the programme, so if you say the lights are going to go on at 4 o'clock, I suppose members of the public expect it to go on at 4 o'clock or whatever time it gets advertised at. So, that's just one item. On 1.24 about the capital land projects, the decision at the City Council meeting on the planning application on the 31st of October. The way they write the minutes, that's really weird because they don't do a notification report. They're not allowed to. It does say a note. Underneath that, it said it's been rejected. So it's almost as though they minute the meeting as though it was rejected because the committee at the time said it was rejected, but it wasn't really rejected. So I just don't know if you've got any comments to say about how they write their minutes up there. that's just something else I thought I'd throw in to the assistant council. Couple of things on 1.30 which actually could Chris and Brett mentioned as well about the Cliff Gardens. You haven't actually mentioned the Seaford Community Partnership where it's going to go into, isn't it? They're going to be managing it in that sense. There's nowhere it's mentioned in that particular on 130. I don't know if it's appropriate to put it on at this particular time. And I suppose like everyone else, I still like to get some toilets up over the Montello as soon as we can. Really, so it's something else that does get mentioned, but hopefully it won't be dropped forever. That's all I was going to say. Right, thank you.
Thank you. Cliff Gardens, I'll mention that because I didn't mention that when Sylvia brought it up as well. We have met with the main volunteers from Cliff Gardens. Recently, myself and Tony met with three of them. We've met with them previously as well, and what they've done is excellent. You know, it's a really well thought out project. We did talk about some changes to it because we have got issues around car parking capacity on the seafront and how that will be managed if we lost in effect potentially 80 parking spaces. So they're coming back with a slightly changed plan, but it'll achieve the same objectives, we think. And the intention is to have that at the council meeting, which is on the agenda tonight, to set up on the 28th of February. The meeting's there for the neighbourhood plan, but we're hoping we can have that on as well if everything's ready in time. And then it's up to the council to agree to support the scheme. We've made it clear throughout though that it'll operate very much at arm's length from us in a large extent. They're very keen. They've got one of the volunteers has got a partner who's a grant funder. She's applied for grants in the past. They're very keen to develop the project themselves. So, because the issue we would have is where would it fit in with our strategic plan? You know, we've already got a full plan, but they want to run with it themselves with some support from us, but the vast majority will be self-run. And you're right, it will be under the umbrella of the community partnership. And the main reason for that is it does open up doors in terms of funding and things like that. You've got the constitution, you've got the viable business entity that's been run for a number of years successfully. So that's the reason, one of the reasons they're looking at that, which makes perfect sense. So yes, we're going to be holding a hand until we get to the council, and it's for the council to decide where we go with that. The minutes of the meeting, I'll have a look at those. I need to have a look. I didn't pick that up. The tree was interesting. I think it's fair to say it got mixed reviews. It's like everything, change, and you're going to get comments. The reason we put that tree there this year was a trial because of last year the tree blew down 3 or 4 times. It spent as much time on its side as it did upright, so it was a bit of a problem last year. So we tried that as a different approach because it is a windy spot. It does make you wonder, perhaps it's not the right spot for the tree. Should we be looking elsewhere for where the tree goes? Somewhere less windy, perhaps. So I think there is some discussions to be had around the tree and where it should be. And equally, the other option is that it'll take a few years, but you plant the tree, which conifers grow fairly quickly. You get a fairly mature one. We can plant one. A number of years' time, suddenly you've got a Christmas tree there all the time without having the problems we had last year. So we shall see. We're looking at a few different options, and we'll see where that takes us. But the lights that we used, if for example we decide to put a tree back at the War Memorial, those lights could be, for example, used at the entrance to the view on the because they're designed to hang on a flagpole, which we've got at the view. So we could do them at the view as a tree when you look down the drive at South Down Road, which would be quite impressive. So we've got a number of options we're looking at.
Well, I must admit that I had a lot of people come to me and say, it was absolutely, they really loved the tree. I mean, I called it the tree of life. But when Reverend Paul Owen, who sort of blesses the Christmas tree each year, and I wondered if he would still do it this year, and he sort of conducted a little service around the light of the world, which was quite apt, and it has the Christmas meaning, and that's what it's about at the end of the day.
Can I just add one thing I should mention there? The first set of lights, people maybe don't realise this, but just before, and I think it was literally 3 or 4 days before Christmas, the first set of lights, 2 panels failed on them.
In the middle.
And Tony Jackson tried to get 2 new panels from the company who supplied that particular tree. They didn't have any in stock. So he actually managed to buy another tree from somewhere else. They refunded us, all in a day or so. And he was up there a couple of days before Christmas erecting the new light tree. So he did a brilliant job of making sure that we did have some lights there as a tree.
So have you got spare lights on them?
I'm not sure what happened with the other ones. I need to check on that. But yes, Tony did an exceptional job to make sure it was only a couple of days where the panels were out, and replace it with a new set of lights.
Thank you very much, Joe.
If there's any more questions, can we go right to report? Thank you. Item. Item 8, final budget report 2019-20 and setting the preset on pages 40 to 61.
Sorry. Oh yes, councillors.
I knew I had. Sorry. Item 7, district and county councillor update reports. Is there any reports from the district? Councillor Hunter.
It's not really a report, it's just a sort of reminding everyone about the Seaford New Health Hub public exhibition going on next week. Because everyone wants as many people to go, talk to the officers. People are getting concerned, this is what the design is going to be. I've had a couple of meetings with the officers recently, and obviously women officers here at Seaford as part of the Seaford Health Stakeholders Group meeting on Tuesday. I wanted to emphasise this is just an artist impression. This is not the final design or anything. I know people have been worried about the fact they might lose light in the house, but it's just an impression, so please don't get too worried that's exactly what it's going to be. And apparently there won't be green buildings like that either. Just to emphasise that. There's no final decision been made on the design and what is happening. No contracts have been signed. At the consultation will be the CCG, GP surgeries, the over 60s plus club, Wave Leisure Trust, Lewes District Council, East Sussex Better Together. There'll be an informal drop-in session, but a comment that was made at the Seaford Health Stakeholders Group meeting on Tuesday was that the suggestion was they were able to have sort of boards around that people could walk round, but it was brought up that it would be quite good if there was somewhere that there was actually maybe a YouTube or a clip going where people could actually sit down and listen to a presentation being done. So that was a comment that was brought up because they said a lot of people people take information in different ways.
Yeah.
So they wanted to make sure there was different options there. If people want to look at on the Lewes District Council website, there is the frequently asked questions part on the www.lewes-eastbourne.gov/Seaford Health Hub, or they have now set up an email address which is seafordhealthhub@leweseastbourne.gov.uk, and the officers are the ones that are monitoring those emails so they can keep an eye on that, and if anyone's got any queries we can pass them on to the officers as well. They really want this to be as open conversations going on as possible. As said, nothing is set in stone at all. That's what they've really emphasised. So I wanted to just make sure people attend the consultation. So it's 29th and 30th of January, 4 to 8 o'clock at the Downs Leisure Centre. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I just start with something? Lewes Council just chair or just attend the speed watch at the Joint Community Safety Partnership, and I think one thing that was raised at the last meeting I attended was that we used to have speed watches officers in town, volunteers, and normally we do get reports that they get sent to councillors. I don't know if any council does receive that. I did used to get one from Steve O'Connell, and then it's just stopped. And so I raised this with Steve O'Connell, and Steve O'Connell has promised that they are prepared to attend any council meeting to talk to councillors if we're worried about speed safety. I get quite a lot of complaints about speed and certain areas in my ward. So if we want to, we can contact Steve O'Connell, and he's prepared to come to council meeting to actually talk to councillors or to actually address that. Two of the things, very briefly, is the Louis District Council. They've got this thing called ELEP, which is the local enterprise and apprenticeship platform. And so the ELEP, you can win to encourage new businesses in the district, and any new young entrepreneur can win £2,500 to support the new business. So the deadline is the 1st of February for any new businesses in the town. It's in our town who is interested. So again, if you know any new businesses, do encourage them to apply. So the 1st of February is the deadline. And finally, there is the local Holocaust Week event in Lewis. Just trying to get the dates in my notes. The Lewis District Council encouraging they're doing the sorry about this. It's the Holocaust Memorial Day in Lewis. It's been held in the Depot Cinema in Lewis. So again, if we can all support that, that'd be good. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Basically, there hasn't been much happening at the council. Obviously, the core offer came up for what we decided would be an acceptable level of service for residents in Sussex with the funding cuts. So there was a £46 million gap over 3 years that we've got to reduce. We're not getting funding from central government, and we've managed to pretty well hit on strike this year. We had a little bit more funding from central government than what we expected, so it's, we can use some of the reserves this year, I think, to help ease the gap a little. So that's pretty good news. Not great, but it's sort of going in the right direction. And this year's council tax is 2.9%, which isn't too bad. And then on local stuff, Councillor Latham's contacted me with regard to a lot of the roads services. So I've been working with him to try and resolve that. It's ongoing for 2 years now, but we're fighting to try and get road repairs done in Acton. It's not fair on residents that they pay them to spot more and get less return, so Anne and I'll be working on that. Another one is about the police within the local area. I think James could write to Sergeant Mullins and perhaps get some more updates. There was a stabbing up in Chinton Estate a few months back, and there has been a lot of crime. We used to get reports quite regularly about what's going on and what the police are offering. We haven't got many police officers on patrol around the area, and that would be nice to a bit more reassurance to members of the public. It is quite a safe town to be in, and what steps are going on there. So I think that's about all I've got.
Thank you very much. Any questions? No? So we can now move on to the budget report 2019-20 and setting of the precept, pages 40 to 61.
The headlines for this, Madam Mayor and Councillors, is that the recommended precept drawn from the committee reports that have been taken by each of the committees, the Finance and General Purpose Committee, is of the order of 777,888, which would result in a bandy equivalent of £80.41 for the annual figure, or an increase in absolute pounds year on year of 7.27. Comparison has been made with for 18-19 with other councils, and we are still significantly, by a long stretch in terms of larger town councils, the lowest precept authority town parish council in the area. The detail is contained in the number of pages that you have before you. And clearly I welcome any questions that you may have in relation to the proposal.
Councillor Nathan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was hoping somebody else would go before me. I'm actually opposed to the increase in precept, following on from Stan's comments earlier, of 9.94%. Over the last 5 years, the figures kindly provided here, the increase in council tax is 65%, increase in precept is 65%, which is 13% year-on-year compound. And it's gone up by significantly greater than inflation every year in those 5 years. Now, I appreciate all the arguments with regard to £80 a year at FAMD being equivalent to an increase being equivalent to a can of Coke or a week or something like that, a month rather, but it's still nonetheless a significant increase, and it's now, we learned tonight, 4 times the increase of East Sussex County Council. Now, East Sussex County Council has passed on some of its good fortune to its residents, given that it had more money coming in from central government. Seaford Town Council has also had some good fortune this year in the form of VAT, and the business has run very well this year. It's over £2 million a year council now, and the council tax, local council tax only forms about a third of that, which is fantastic. But that's no reason to capitalise, I think, and it's almost arrogant, I think, to say, well, we can go for 9.9% because it's only a small amount of money. So I think there's a basic principle there that needs to be followed. And I would be happy with an increase of maybe 5%. I think that's fair enough. The justification being that we're still below the average for the area and the size of the town. But I think 9% that's over 3 times the rate of inflation. I think that's just totally inappropriate.
Okay. You making a proposal?
I propose we reject the proposal for 9.94 and replace it with 5% increase.
5%. Is that find a seconder? Are you seconding?
I wasn't going to second because I actually feel that it should be a lot lower than 5%, but I do fully support what Councillor Latham's saying, and I would say that 3.3% would be adequate. And bearing in mind that we've offered our residents of Seaford every year, we said the Martello toilets will get done, they've been let down. There's so much going on that we just get let down by the council's letting our residents down. How can you keep asking for more stuff, more money off of residents, and not deliver what we said that we were going to do? And you've had this thing called the our capital wish list, and James has mentioned on several occasions, yeah? And just taking money out of people, but no deliverance or anything, yeah? And as Alan said, we had a nice windfall there, 125,000. Members of the public paid towards that golf course. They pay in their council tax. That money should actually not go on a value spike bar, it should go towards the Martello town, onto the toilets and development, yeah? People have paid their money and it's getting delivered in the wrong place, yeah? The golf course is doing well, let's allow it to go well, we can look at later investment, but, you know, give residents something back. And so I would say 3%, development, second that.
Well, at the end of the day, are we seconding
I
Councillor?
know, I just sorry. I would like if Councillor Latham or someone else would support my 3%, but I fully endorse what Councillor Latham said. Thank you.
I'd just like a bit more information about where Councillor Latham thinks savings can be made. We've got this list of expenditure here, and also is Councillor Gorman, where does he think we should cut?
Well, I'll come back to you. The reduction from 9.95 to 5.9 is what, 4%, which equates to £30,000. £30,000, I think, on a budget of 2.1 million can be saved quite reasonably, particularly as the reserves are going up by, I can't remember the figures now, 53. So there's money in the bank to do that, and I think it's inappropriate. I've said it all. I think it's inappropriate.
Could I contribution there? although it was before my immediate time as Deputy Town Clerk and responsible financial officer, I do believe there was comment by both, I may be wrong, the district and the county council in relation to the level of general reserves that Seaford Town Council has. And it's a matter that the internal audit has pointed out that we are significantly below what would be expected for a council this size and its expenditure. And any motion that is carried that reduces the proposal further erodes the prospect of moving matters towards the indicative figure of general reserve. It must be said that no one will say what the magic figure of general reserve should be. Certainly we are significantly below what is considered prudent in the current circumstances.
Yes, I understand that. I think it just means it will take a year longer to get the general reserves up to where they ought to be.
Madam Mayor, may I respond to that?
Yes.
If there is continued holding of matters, it will take far longer than a year to get to the 250,000.
Councillor Hagan-Newton.
I agree in principle with Councillor Latham, but I disagree because I think we have to be very careful. I mean, in principle, I want a low tax, efficient council, but I think very careful about being pragmatically, ideologically driven. Let's look at the reality. I mean, I've always argued against an increase in council tax, and I am in principle against any increase below above the rate of inflation. But we can't use ideology to run our council services. We've seen what's happened when you cut things to the bone just because of ideologically driven arguments. You have to look at the reality, and the reality is we've actually achieved a lot for our town. You know, the list is endless, and for the precept that we actually set, we actually deliver value for money for our residents, and that for me is what we should be asking ourselves: is this value for money? Are we actually getting something back for what we actually charge our residents? And I think we are getting something back. We now have a seafront that is being developed that isn't derelict. We now have the swords, which is a wonderful park that people can use. We now have the skate park that is actually being done. Okay, it's not directly being sourced by county taxpayers, but it's actually being done by our offices, trying to spend officer time, which costs money to actually get grants. So if we want these things to continue, then we do have to support our offices. It's very easy for us to sit down and say, well, let's cut everything down to the bone. And I want to see things cut down to the bone, but let's look at what we've actually achieved. And I actually feel once proud to be a Seaford Town Councillor. People knock, and when I knock on the door, people say, what does my council do? I can now build out things that we've actually achieved. And so look at the pictures, look at our seafront. People come into our town now, people spend money on our seafront. Why is that happening? Because we've got good officers who are thinking of good ideas, who are getting things done. And I think we need to support that. Now, I do agree that, again, we are trying to build the reserves, and you can argue whether we should delay the reserves by 12 months or 2 years. We've got to be very careful here. We are generating our income from businesses, from trading effectively. If you run your business, the first thing you do is you build your reserves. Because of uncertainty. If we let now cut our reserves down to the bone, God forbid anything happens with Brexit or a recession, and the Gulf goes loses an income, then we're in trouble. So I urge my colleagues to, whilst in principle, yes, I would like to see an increase in precept that is at the rate of inflation. We need to look at where we are, what we've actually achieved, and what can be achieved with what's been asked for. I think it's quite important that we do build our reserves. So we have a comfort blanket that will protect us against any eventuality, any unplanned eventuality. I think it's also important that we do support our offices and our staff to continue to deliver for our town. And so for that reason, I'm proposing a motion that we accept the suggested increase of 9.94%.
Councillor Freeman, and then.
Well, I'll second Councillor Antonici's proposition, but I would also like you, Madam Mayor, to please ask Councillors Latham and Gorman to explain what they would cut back on the prospects for the next year to achieve the cuts in council tax.
I don't think that it's necessary to cut back on anything. We have, bear in mind, the achievements that Councillor Adeniji referred to are achievements over the last year, before this increase has happened. So an increase of 3% inflation would actually to achieve what has already been achieved, because salaries would go up by that much and so on. But the reduction to, say, 5% will cost only £30,000. So nothing need suffer as a result of that. It just means £30,000 less goes into the reserves for the auditors to see, and that can be postponed for another year. So I think the council's done extremely well this year. I congratulate the town clerk and the deputy town clerk and RFO for their achievements. Absolutely fantastic. This council is fantastic. I agree with Councillor Adeniji with everything he said, apart from the bottom line of proposing that we accept the increase of 9.9%, because that, I think, is out on a limb. It's not in line with other councils. It's 3 times the rate of inflation, and it looks, I think, extremely, I think it looks greedy, to be honest, and inappropriate.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to support what Councillor Adeniji said, reference what the town council put in the last few years. I'd also like to point out, in the last 4 years, our internal auditors warned us that our reserves are far too low for the amount of turnover that we've got within the council. We only need one major disaster, and touch wood, we won't have one. If we did, it could wipe out our reserves and we would really be in trouble, so I support the 9.94%.
Anybody else? Well, I must admit, I'm feeling very uncomfortable about 9.4%, sorry. But because I know there's a lot of residents out there which have to count every penny, and I do feel it is high, and I feel I can't support 9.4. I know there's good reasons, everybody's giving good reasons, but that's my opinion. Councillor Gorman.
Yeah, Councillor Latham said 4%, and I would be happy
5%.
4%. We went in the middle.
I'm happy with 4.
But I would propose
Can
4%.
I clarify? You said, when you said 5.5%, you then said 5.9. So when you say 4%, are you saying 4.9?
Yeah, sure. 4.75.
Second thing,
Madam,
Chair.
okay, I think we've got 2 budgets on the table.
And can I have a report? Can I have a report back to the council?
Yes, that's 5.
So what are we voting on? Just explain
First motion was, well, the first motion that's now being
It was
accepted.
5%, but we dropped it to 4.75.
4.75.
We didn't have a seconder for that.
Yes.
That's the form.
Oh, we didn't, yeah, so the first motion that was seconded was actually the report, yeah. So the 9.94.
No, it wasn't. It was Councillor Foreman seconded my motion.
No, he
didn't
seconded
second
it.
it.
He didn't second it.
Because he
Anyway.
wanted to go lower.
He proposed 3, and you proposed 5, and then there was a 9.4 was proposed and seconded, and then you agreed 4.
Okay,
Sorry.
So we
I'll ask you
have,
afterwards.
we have a proposal to,
For 9.94.
yeah, 9.4,
Yes,
by
sorry.
Councillor Adeniji, seconded by Councillor Freeman. So can I, oh no, recorded vote, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so this is for 9.94% as per the report. So I'll just go through in alphabetical order, either for or against. Councillor Adeniji.
4.
Councillor Argent.
4.
Councillor Bowman.
Against.
Councillor Brown.
4.
Councillor Burchett's absent. Councillor Burfield.
Against.
Councillor Hilton's absent. Councillor Freeman. Lindsay Freeman, sorry, I beg your pardon. Councillor Nick Freeman.
4.
Councillor Goodman.
4.
Councillor Hader.
4.
Councillor Olivia Honeyman.
Against.
Councillor Richard Honeyman.
4.
Councillor Latham.
Against.
Councillor Lord.
4.
Councillor Walraven.
Against.
Councillor Weymouth.
Against.
Councillor White.
4.
Six, correct. As well. Yeah, so that's in favour 10, against 6, so that motion is carried.
I do have questions about it though.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's one, but it's,
Can we have order, please?
I know the budget doesn't allow for capital expenditure to be set up separately from revenue expenditure. Obviously, the Gulf View budget shows a bigger deficit than the actual trading deficit would have been. For example, the spike bar is included as an expenditure. That is actually that isn't a revenue expenditure. That is a capital expenditure. But my concern is that if you look at the Gulf budget, you think, oh, the Gulf is going to make a big loss next year. But in reality, it's not going to make a big trading loss next year. It's just because of the way so I'm just wondering, is there any way we can present this so that we show the trading losses against the actual, because they're two separate things.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's very difficult to do that. Yeah, we can give that some thought. I'm not going to, because I've got to be very got to be careful we do everything legally, of course, and transparently, and also within the system's capabilities as well. But we can look at that. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, and two, there is the movement of the earmarked reserve in relation to the spike bar. But
if you look at
that has an impact as well.
But next year's figure, you're right.
Yeah,
Because it's, although it's coming out of an earmarked reserve next year, the money still comes from the revenue centre of the Gulf from the view, yes. Okay.
So we've got to,
I could just mention that the only other town council I know of, precept-wise, that the setting is P7, and theirs has gone up by 26%, and theirs is already 50% higher than ours.
so, bullet point 3, to note project budgets for years 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23, and 23, 24. They're noted. Yeah.
It's the,
So what do we do now?
so you've got
You've got
to approve, you've got number 1, you've set the precept,
all right.
you've done that, but you haven't done 1, you've just done 3, that's just a note. You've got to do number 4 and 5, yes, yeah.
Right, so 4, to approve the transfer of £195,833 to the earmark reserves to the general reserve as set out
Done.
in 1.4.
Yeah, that sentence, sorry, it shouldn't have to the general reserve, it shouldn't be there, it's just a earmark reserve. That's probably led to some confusion.
My drafting, apologies.
Is it from the general?
It's from this current system, yeah, so it's from this financial year.
So that's not the general reserve?
Correct. Yeah,
That's a miss.
yeah, it's that, those few words shouldn't be there. So after earmarked reserve,
Full stop.
full stop, as set out in 1.4, yeah.
Sorry.
Was that by the second? Can I have show of hands, please?
With the amendment.
Those against? Those abstaining? That's carried. 5, to authorise the RFO in consultation with the town clerk to place any underspends or projects as presented in the ENR to be used in 2019-20.
Perhaps if I explain what that is, Chair, do you want me to explain what that means, consequences? What it means is, for example, we've projected that we're going to spend in this financial year 150 of the money on the skate park. Actually, it's going to be a bit less than that, because since we did the reports, the dates come in for delivery of the skate park, it's a bit later. So the amount we'll transfer into the earmarked reserve will be more than 50. It'll be whatever we spend up until 31st of March, that's left. We can't project that because we don't know where it's going to be, but it's the principle's the same. It's just given us the power to, because we have to close down the system. We can't, this is something we can't do and bring it back to council. The system has to close down when we transfer the earmarked reserves. After that, there's a line drawn, you can't go back. So that's the reason that needs to be there.
So is that essentially, are you carrying that forward, that underspend, into next year? Because you're not actually allowed to carry forward, so this is a way of expressing it.
It's all of the, it's the earmarked reserves you've just approved, but they won't be, the earmarked reserves won't be exactly, they won't be exactly 195.
No, so the difference is carried forward.
Yeah, wherever the difference is on what we haven't spent, that we're projecting to spend this year in those earmarked reserves, that would go in earmarked reserves, is increased or decreased accordingly. It's probably going to be increased.
If it's spending the same project.
So that's the whole idea. So it does go on the project. As some of it is legally got to be spent on the projects, we've got to do that anyway. For example, 106 money.
But if there's an underspend on the project and no more is required for the project,
that'd be different.
That would go into earmarked general reserve.
Correct. Yeah, correct. But that would be.
Would that be automatic under the
No, that would happen during the financial year next year.
Right.
We'll be able to do that during the year.
I'm with that.
So I'm slightly confused because we're talking about underspend. They mentioned overspend. I'm not comfortable with authorizing to overspend.
No, we won't overspend as in well, we won't be overspending, but we're saying in the budget that we presented, I'll use the skate park as an example. We're saying in there we're going to spend 150 this financial year and 50 next year. So 50 is going in the earmarked reserve because we've had 200 come in. Yeah. Now what we are saying is that say we only spend 80 this year, we'll put 120 in the earmarked reserve. But equally, if we spent 170, we'd only be putting 30 in. Yeah. So it's just it's not changing anything financially. It's just so that we can adjust depending on where we've spent at the deadlock of 31st of March.
So can I have a proposal and a second?
I'm going to propose.
Thank you, Councillor Goodman, second of Councillor Latham, and a show of hands, please. And those against? And those abstaining? That's carried. Thank you.
Can I just, I think there's one thing I should do, because I don't want staff to be demoralised. There was a mention that we haven't done anything in a couple of years. I think it's fair to say, although some people did mention these things, in the last couple of years, 2 years, we have delivered the beach huts. We have built a new £200,000 children's play area. We have delivered the shoal. We have put additional kiosks in the seafront. We've developed the View as a business that's now viable. We've transferred Seaford Head Nature Reserve over it, which took a lot of work, so that's now properly run by a trust. We now hold on our land 40 plus events. We're down to 15, 20. And we've got some really good ones coming up this year, including the Beer Festival, which is going to be run by Sussex Events on our land. In this next year, we've also got it's already ordered, the new daily beach huts coming in, the commercial beach huts on the seafront and on food. We've got the water points coming on the seafront. We've got temporary toilets coming along the seafront for customers of the kiosks, which is in answer to surveys that we've had. And we've got other improvements as well in events as well. So I just want to make that point. I don't want the staff to think I've sat here and listened to someone say we've done nothing when they're working really hard to deliver an awful lot. I think it's important that we put that on record, that they have delivered an awful lot in the last year, in addition to just running the council. That's taken for granted.
That's all been very positive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Probably out of order, Madam Mayor, can I propose a vote of thanks to the town council staff? We record that in the minutes.
Yes, thank you. Right, agenda item 9, annual return for 2017 MEC update, pages 62 to 69.
Madam Mayor, could I point out that through my mistake there should have been a further letter dated 8th of October 2018, which actually mentioned in the text but not actually included as the appendix, which was a delayed letter between 30 September 18, but they had, it would appear, staff from PKF, accountants and business advisors, but nonetheless it gave us an entirely clean audit report for the calendar, the fiscal year 17-18. So if I could just bear that amendment to the council.
You recommend, sorry?
We both seem to be slightly confused about whether we passed point one in the recent agenda item. I know we voted on 2, 3, 4 and 5, did we actually vote on point one?
I didn't have to look at
Yes, yes, we did. Which one, I thought I got that mixed up with point 4 then. No, we did.
I did that in which one, 8?
Yeah, we've just done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we covered 1 and 2.
Oh, we did it together.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. And that was just point 2, thank you.
Then we voted on, then we did, we had to note 3 and then voted on 4 and 5. Okay, all right with that? So, yeah. So you're asked to note the report unless there's any questions. So it's noted?
I'd just like to put on record as well how well the finance team have done. Colin's obviously part of that team now, but Lucy and Simon do an exceptional job. Those who were in the office this morning had Simon chasing up the decks, which was interesting. There's not many because he's on the phone every week. He's like a bulldog, so nobody gets away with it. And it's interesting because I was involved recently as a third party, just looking at something for another council, and one of their issues was they have no debt recovery systems, and they had lots of debts owed to them. And it's just a little example of where we get things so well and so right here that we recover the debts really well. So they've done an exceptional job in the last year.
Thank you.
I'd also like to add in there that the quality of the reports that's coming out now from Finance Department are very, very good. The errors made now in the reconciliation of the bank account, the bank fee, council statement, that has been done for the last 4 months. So,
Thank you. Can that be noted as well? Yeah, thank you. Item 10, first internal audit report for 2018-19, pages 70 to 77.
And Mark Mulberry attended himself on the 6th of December 2018, and he issued the report the same day, which I think is 4 if not 5 pages. I draw council attention to actually page 77, which looks at the action that is taking place in relation to the recommendations that Mark Mulberry recommended, and as indicated, requested to know both his report and the actions on page 77. Please ask any questions, of course, if you have any.
Are there any questions?
isn't that, direct debit now is set up, isn't it?
It is indeed. But we do spell direct debit correctly, not directed debit, as it says in the letter.
Okay, so I can take recommendations 1 and 2 together,
Please.
and to note the report.
Yeah.
Noted.
Well, I didn't vote item 1 and 2.
Thank you. Noted?
Yeah.
Thank you. Item 11, neighbourhood plan update, page 78.
Chair, as I mentioned in the class report, the neighbourhood plan team are doing an excellent job. The biggest feedback to the second Regulation 14 consultation was, as I said, from statutory bodies. So therefore, they do require some additional work to be done, and we have had to get some extra work commissioned as well as a result of that. Nothing major, but it does need to be done to meet the rigorous planning requirements of a neighbourhood plan, especially one the size of Seaford. So they've asked if we can convene a special council meeting on the 28th of February at 7 p.m. I haven't mentioned in this report, it's an omission, my apologies, but we do have a personnel meeting that evening. And I have talked to the chair of personnel about that. And the idea is that we would have the personnel meeting at 6 p.m, which would then enable us to have the council meeting at 7 p.m. I'm fairly confident we can get the business conducted in that hour, I would expect. And as I've mentioned earlier as well, if this is agreed to, we will be looking to, there's 2 additional items that we're looking at having at that meeting if everything's done in time, which is the project for Cliff Gardens and also the concessions and licensing fees for fixed trading points that we have policy as well.
I think the neighbourhood plan officers have been in.
Yeah, we'll have certainly Keith and Charlie, I would imagine, be here, and Fistina potentially as well.
So you're recommended to agree to convene an extraordinary full council meeting for Thursday, 28th of February at 7 p.m. to consider the adoption of the Seaforth Neighbourhood Plan following the second Regulation 14 consultation and agree for it to be sent to Lewes District Council for a Regulation 16 consultation. Can I have a proposal second?
Proposed to accept.
Councillor Brown. Are you seconding, Councillor?
No, I have a question.
Okay. Can I have a second of it all? Okay, right. Sorry, Councillor.
Oh, it's just the fact you were saying about starting the personnel meeting at 6. That knocks us, that those of us who don't work in town, not being able to make meeting at 6. So I just wanted to remind that we don't all work here.
What time could you be here for?
Depends on traffic. Maybe 6:30. But at 6 o'clock there's no way.
Okay. On the chairman's business, we could make the council meeting 7:30 if that would then accommodate both. Everyone's happy with that.
Just to allow the fact that not everyone.
Yeah, I fully understand that. Yeah, my apologies. Yeah. People are happy with that. We could do 7:30 and 6:30.
So, Councillor Brown, you happy with 7:30? Yes. So can I have a show of hands, please? Those against? Abstention? Okay, it's carried. So 7:30. Item 12, 2019-20 meeting timetable, pages 79 to 80.
Sure, the little bit complicated in election year, so we haven't fully taken into account the fact that councillors don't become councillors until 4 days after the election when we did the original timetable, which meant that we couldn't lawfully convene you to the original dates that we'd set, which has a knock-on effect for a few other things, as set out in the meeting, in the report, sorry. So you're recommended to approve that new committee timetable with in effect, there's 4 changes there, Chair.
Any questions? So, to adopt the revised 2019-20 meeting timetable as presented, can I have the proposer and the seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Hall, seconded. Councillor Hollow, I can have a show of hands, please. That's unanimous.
Could I just quickly mention as well, we are having, as we did 4 years ago, we're going to have a potential candidates information evening for prospective new councillors, which will be on the 21st of March in here. We did one last year. There were 40 odd people here, so we'll do a similar thing this year, which will be advertised.
Moving on to agenda item 13, council laptops or tablets. This is to present research and the possibility of stopping harmful copy council papers for councillors to work on laptops or tablets.
Mr. Chair, we felt obliged to look into this. We have talked about it at the councils in the past. So we've done the financial comparators, and as you can see from the report, whilst printing does cost us potentially in a normal cycle 4 years about £5,000, the cost for the computers or pads is more than that. So the recommendation is that we remain with the status quo for now.
Just a query regarding the Apple iPad cost calculation. £9,640 for 20 councillors. I couldn't do the sums to get there. I'm happy with the previous one for the Microsoft, but not for the Apple. I don't know how that was calculated. Having said that, I agree that we should not go ahead with this purchase and should stick with the old-fashioned system.
Councillors still have the option of opting out of the paper copies if they wish, with us having the secure drive now. They can use their own. I appreciate that doesn't work for everyone. I'm not saying you have to do that, but
You're very polite.
Yeah, it's an option if anyone wishes to. Yeah.
I've got Councillor Brown next.
Yes, I'm against this proposition, Madam Mayor. I think we've just put the price up by 9.94%, and we're now telling the people, the sleepers, that we're going to buy everybody a laptop. I think it's not the right time to do that. And also, I noticed that in the budget there's no allocation in there for breakages, losses, and any misuse of the people lose them and break them.
Councillor Murphy.
I was actually going to mention to the town clerk that he could also, if he wishes, produce the hard copy cost by producing the slides of the agendas.
I'll avoid answering that one. I'll try my best. How's that?
Councillor Bowman.
That's it. I have the privilege of having one for the county, and they are useful tools to have. The ModGov, well, that costs money to have, but that is a very useful tool because you can actually add notes to stuff, change stuff on there, and that. And it's a very powerful document that you can use to also look at other councils and what they're doing, stuff like that as well. You know, so they are handy. And perhaps yes, there's a cost involved in use with everything, but actually it would be a benefit to the council. I know Lewis District have their tablets and that that should give them if they want them. But you can use your own phone system, mobile phone. You can download this stuff. You haven't actually, you know. I think we should look at it, but maybe it's just down to people's choice, the council's choice whether they wish to receive that or not. I mean, I could use my county one, for example, here, so I wouldn't actually cost anyone. District councillors apply, but they've got those, they can perhaps use their log into the system, so it wouldn't actually be a cost of 20. And obviously most members here, or you've got their own personal laptops that they perhaps could bring. So just having a look at getting the ModGov package as a council might be an option and be cheaper.
Sorry, what's that?
ModGov.
ModGov.
Yeah, it's a
We can look at that.
yeah, that is cheaper. There's cost involved, but then but especially for ones working on other tiers of government, it's a great tool to have. But then we could get into the local council.
Thank you.
I would support that sort of amendment.
We have very financial.
Yeah, or come back with it to the
Yeah,
council.
we can certainly look at it. Yeah.
Councillor Archer, you've got your hand up.
Well, I'm just wondering if if it was approved, whether it be for the new council or a few weeks of the old council.
Just be the new one. Yeah.
Maybe then a motion to look into the ModGov stuff and then present that to the new council and sort.
Yeah, we'll certainly look at it. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so at the moment, we've got to note the information within the report and to take no action and continue to receive hard copy council papers. Okay, so can I propose and second that?
Can I make an amendment along the lines suggested by Councillor Boyfield to say maybe we try to reduce the agenda as well?
If I may, councillor, if it's for the benefit of the next sitting council, perhaps we can increase the size of the agendas instead.
I was definitely.
Yeah, no,
I just want to get my support.
Yeah, we've been between a rock and a hard place because you often complain that we, or make comments, not complain, that we don't bring things to the council for consideration, we create more paperwork. You know, so we've got to be careful how we do it. What I would say is I think next 4 years will be less paperwork in all honesty, because if we've done averages here, and when, you know, some of the time in the past, we had that many big items to deal with, which were legacy items, which required a lot of paperwork. I can remember us having agendas of 25 items, I think, and being here till midnight, the first couple of meetings we had. So, you know, those meetings have gone now because we were dealing with a lot of legacy issues. So perhaps the next 4 years will use less paper anyway because of that. We're a little bit more stable than we were then.
I think it would be helpful, like members on planning, because often questions come up about an application, and because now we don't have hard copies, then we would have would have that in front of us. So that's a problem.
Yeah, just quickly, Chair. With regard to the numbers of the agendas, a lot of full councils operate that it's just a voting system on full. All of this, most of the stuff should be thrashed out by the committees, and it should just be a vote. CEFA do things different, you know, that into other parishes and stuff. But you know, most of the stuff should be brought to the council just for a decision, and then if it's not suitable, just send it straight back rather than debating like we do. Just that's the way we work. But other councils would just say, no, it's not going through like that, go back to the committee, come back with it, and just approve. And then therefore the committee meetings last a little bit longer, and you have to try the others that they'll know on those select committees, and that they're fashioning out the stuff that comes into it's perfectly done. And perhaps there should be, maybe just before, if things aren't certain with other councillors, get in contact with the committee, and that so it doesn't have to be raised in the full council, and then things will run a lot quicker. But that's just a bit of my reason for what it's worth.
Well, thanks for that, but I would just say that the reason we do it the way we do is to reduce bureaucracy. If you present something at the committee and then you present it again to the council and then it perhaps goes back, my experience of working in councils like that, which I have, is that we would require additional admin support to do that, so there'd be an additional cost, which would be far more than what we're looking at here. I agree, but it's only fair I point out, you know, what's my experience. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do we want 3 council members?
Yeah, we can have number 3 if you wish, which is to look at the ModGov and report back to the next council on that. Certainly.
Oh, it's the modern.gov, isn't it?
Modgov.
Modern.gov.
Modgov. I'll send it to you, Joe.
Yeah, okay, we'll look at that.
Yeah, it's a good document. Modgov.
Right, so you've got now 3 recommendations to note the information within the report, so noted. And then to take no action and continue to receive hard copy council papers. Is that a proposer and seconder? Councillor Brown. And can I have a show of hands on that one? And those against? Those abstaining? Thank you. That's carried. And then item 3, that the officers research the ModGov.
Yes, thank you.
So can I propose a seconder for that one, please? Councillor Foreman, seconder, please.
That's it.
Councillor. And can I have a show of hands, please? Those against? I think that was unanimous, actually. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we move on to Lewes District Council Statement of Gambling Principles and Consultation, pages 83 to 111.
Mr Chair, the policy is being circulated to all members. I haven't had any detailed queries on this, but we are consulted on this by the District Council for our views as to whether we agree with this new policy. Talking to members to make any comments to it. Or we just accept it or note it.
Any comments? So you're recommended to agree the comments to be submitted to LDC on its draft statement of gambling principles. Does that have a proposer from Councillor?
Yeah.
And seconded by Councillor Latham. And can I have a show of hands, please? And those against? Abstentions? That's carried. Item 15, new policies, staff travel expenses, 15A, which is pages 112 to 114.
Chair, this is just to address a gap in our staff handbook. It was noted that when members of staff applied for travel that we didn't actually have a policy in place. So it's basically to adopt the policies presented, which is a fairly standard policy. One thing I would add is, since we drafted this, is that we really need an extra clause in there to state that if an individual's insurance is increased, car insurance is increased as a result of using the car for council business, that the increase should be covered as well. We believe that for most people there won't be an increase, but there's always the potential there could be. It would be unfair to expect someone to pay that out of their own pocket.
But there are at least 2 members of staff. I think definitely what.
Any comments?
I think question is national guidelines, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Government
Councillor Abernethy?
So just a question, please, if I may. Obviously, the increase in travel insurance, is that going to be substantial? I don't know how it works. No.
I think you looking at roughly £25, something like that, not hundreds of pounds. It's just for casual business use, as opposed to business use for your whole business, which is where you're delivering.
The county will have to have business insurance. I've got the short approval.
Councillor White?
Can I just confirm, please, that the meetings referred to in this do not include the council's meetings? That people won't suddenly get their petrol home because they stay.
Oh, no, not to your normal place of work. No, this is our normal place of work.
It's well outside your house.
Yeah, it's when you're going for a meeting at Lewis, for example, or Eastbourne, or wherever it may be. I will say that we have been, some staff do claim mileage, but we just haven't had a policy in place. They've been claiming the mileage, which is the nationally agreed system within the Green Book, but we just wanted a policy in place to make sure it was done properly. And the vast majority of staff who drive up and down to the view say, you don't do a claim for that. They're a mile there, a mile back, but that's never claimed for. That's just done as gratis free, really.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If a councillor, rather than a member of staff, were to use his or her car for council business, would standard insurance cover that use, or would that be considered business use? So maybe this should include councillors as well with regard to insurance if they use their car. Strictly speaking, if you use your car occasionally for a trip to Lewis, for example, you should probably ring your insurance company and tell them.
I think there's a difference between yours and town council. You were paid as a councillor. You were volunteers. Generally, voluntary activity doesn't carry additional premium.
We should be paid.
That's another discussion.
Or maybe we should expect.
Yeah, so that would gender rights.
We do what I do, I don't claim it, just don't claim it, I don't claim it.
No, I'm not so worried about the claim, I'm worried about the
insurance. Yeah. I think for voluntary activities, that's not work. And so if you're not being paid for this, then it's not work.
I just point something out there, I know a little bit about travel. If, for example, you're going to claim the mileage for that journey to wherever you're going as a councillor, as a volunteer councillor, then technically you are getting gain from that, and that could be looked at as business. Well, if you're claiming the mileage against it on council business, so you're claiming as a council.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
it's an HMRC reimbursable figure for costs calculated on the cost of running the car. It's not a gain or profit.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
as long as it's below 45p mile.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
If it goes over 45,
Yeah.
that's different.
Okay, but just then for clarity then, thanks.
Yeah,
All right, so,
that's all right.
all right. I would support but could we, sorry, just one other thing, could we have that in a section, so it's clearly next year or something, then we can have a review, and people can clearly see where they're on the spreadsheet, where those expenses are. Doesn't have to be named, just what the journeys are, so we've got some form of reconciliation as to the mileage. I suspect yours would be higher than most journeys, to be fair. But, okay, well fine, but you know, just something that we can just clearly see how much it's cost, and I would fully support it.
Yeah, well, it shows on the budget, so you have,
Okay,
you have staff expenses.
Exactly.
So if the whole council's about 300 quid at the moment, a year, roughly.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Honeyman.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just still on 1.1, you talk about unpaid staff, but they're volunteers, aren't they?
Yeah.
So what's the difference between them volunteering going up to Lewis and putting in a claim and councillors going up to Lewis putting in a claim?
You can claim mileage as councillors.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. So there's no difference.
But you know the insurance side of things. So if you've got a volunteer member of staff, would you pay their?
If they're a volunteer, no, they're a volunteer. It's voluntary, so they wouldn't need that. If you're a volunteer, same as somebody who's volunteering. I was talking about councillor do helps at the food bank.
Right. Yeah.
Councillor Brown, picking up items for them. That's voluntary activity, it's not work, so the insurance is covered. It's well worth checking with your individual insurance company. I would have that caveat to everything. But voluntary activity is not the same as paid
Yeah,
activity.
it could be different clauses in it. So
Yeah, it could be. Depends how much miles you're doing as well. And there's lots of caveats to any insurance policy.
With the local trips, it's almost, yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, so we're recommending to adopt the staff travel expenses policy as presented with the effect of the 24th of January 2000.
Yeah, 2008, beg your pardon. Could we add to that with the addition of the insurance reclaim, please, if you're happy with that, Chair?
So can I have a proposer and second? Thank you. Yeah, seconded by Councillor Turner. And the show of hands, please. So that's unanimous. Thank you. 15B, annual investment strategy, pages 115 to 16.
Mayor, the council considered an investment strategy in March 2018, which I believe is copied as an appendix. No, it didn't. However, I can remind you that it did. Effectively, this brings council up to date with the position that now exists. We have invested at some monies with CCLA, which is a recognised local authority investment vehicle, and we're gaining interest of some 0.75%. We have endeavoured to enable myself and the council, on behalf of the council, to invest in a property deposit fund, a local authority property deposit fund, which would attract a far higher rate of interest, something like 60 or 75%. But we, like with VAT and other matters, we've encountered some hurdles. We're working through those hurdles and are confident that they will be moved and enable us to put a modest sum of money that is not required for council purposes in that longer-term investment vehicle that's attracting a rate of interest of 6.75. Our first investment, nothing to crow about, for only 2 weeks actually generated £103 worth of interest, which compares to virtually nothing we've been accruing previously. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So unless there's any questions, Councillor Bowman?
Yes, I'd just be very interested in what they invested in to give you that sort of return, because I've got, I think, just a bit more background as to what they're invested in to give you that sort of return.
I confess lack of knowledge as to what the deposit fund is invested in, but I know the property fund is invested in a variety of, how should we say, sound properties, including, I think, some might disagree, the Travelodge in Brighton, quite a number of properties around London, which are regarded as inflation and as use the term bomb-proof inadvertently, but proof in terms of the vicissitudes of the ups and downs of life. So it is well considered, and whilst it's not guaranteed any investment, there are risks attaching to it. It is endorsed by a number of local authorities, short investor funds, and it has been going for something like 20 years, I believe.
I just emphasise we're not agreeing to his investment in that fund tonight. That will be a separate report if we've got to get through the hurdles that was mentioned. If we get through those hurdles so that we're allowed to invest, we will then come back with a report for you to approve to invest. Then we'll have more detail. But in, I think, the 18 years they've been operating, there's only been 1 year where the fund hasn't performed and produced a profit, and that was 2008 when the recession crashed. So in those years, every other year it's produced a surplus. And as well as the growth of roughly on average between 5 and 6%, the values of the fund have gone up as well, so that a double whammy, you get extra money when you draw out as well. It's not just your annual premium you get, the value of your money grows as well. So it can work out significant. But it's a local authority stroke charity investment fund. It's AAA rated, otherwise we wouldn't be looking at it. But it does have the risk, it could always go down in value, absolutely.
Just it's a bit cautious because obviously we have pension funds and things like that at the county, and we get people coming in about fossil fuels. I'm not going massive bigger, but coming about fossil fuels and the way that money's generated and stuff, you know, and that was more the caution of what I was, the detail of it all.
I'd like to draw attention to item 1.2, where it says the 2018-19 annual investment strategy is attached in Appendix A. Appendix A in my thing is totally black. There isn't Appendix A.
Yeah, it's our apologies, Councillor. We it was omitted, but you have got a copy of that elsewhere. But yes, the investment strategy is just in accordance with that. I think actually, going back to the discussions around paper, we don't really need to attach that, in all honesty. You know, you've got it, it's there on the internet as well. So probably in hindsight, it was a good thing to omit it, Chair.
Councillor Delaney.
I'm fine.
Okay, Councillor
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to point out that this is not spare money, so it's not something that we can just spend as we feel like. It's money that's already been committed, and it'll be drawn down over the rest of the year to pay off our debts and our investments in the town.
Services,
So it's not spare cash.
Okay, so can we note the report, please? Thank you. 15C, display screen equipment use policy, pages 117 to 122.
Chair, this is useful for our statutory responsibilities largely to confirm that we will pay for items for screen users and contribute to the use of spectacles if needed, up to a value of £49. There's more detail on that in the policy, but they are the key indicators within the policy, Chair. And we do have an arrangement with a local supplier in Seaford who does our tests at a discounted price.
Councillor Latham.
I'd like to propose that we accept the policy.
Seconded. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just think it's just for staff, this policy. Just make it clear.
So, can I have a show of hands, please? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 16, community right to bid, pages 121 to 125.
In response really to the public participation, the 4 town car parks, Buckle, Saxton Lane, Richmond Road and West Street are currently registered with the District Council in the Register of Right to Bid properties. 37 Church Street here and the Down Pleasure Centre have also been registered. Back in 2015-16, there was an attempt also to register the post office, but having worked for the post office, there are usually Crown rights attaching to post offices and sorting offices, this rather complicated matter, so that was rejected by Lewes District Council. If I might also add as a rider that whilst the line all pubs in Seaford, it is suggested that it's unlikely that any of the pubs in Seaford is likely to have a right to bid application accepted on the basis that if one closes, then the patron will migrate to the nearest pub, probably fairly quickly. It will be different in some villages where there might only be one or two pubs, or maybe only a single pub, and the right to bid may well be more successful. But we would invite your thoughts on the process.
Questions? Councillor Foreman?
I'll take your point with the pubs, but as you sort of go out of Seaford, you've got the Seven Sisters pub, which is a value to the local area, and has got an Art Deco thing about it as well, and that's the only one that I would suggest that we would perhaps just include that we look for that. I'll do that part on the other ones.
That would put us in a difficult position, because I think that in the neighbourhood it's designated as housing. It's designated in another policy we've adopted as housing.
I still think we have to have a challenge against that. I know there's been that debate, and I do understand that some housing areas with pubs attached to them do work in quite an incentive. I know I think they're now along the Kingston Road, I can't think of the name of the Rob now, but they actually put housing stock on the car park and so. But I just, just to have it in there wouldn't be a bad thing.
That would change the neighbourhood plan, though.
Sorry. I think a lot of people feel strongly about that not being included. That's more been.
It's something that should have been fed back. I don't think anyone
has been, actually. I believe it is in the neighbourhood plan.
Right. For
there to be public house facilities on that site.
Oh, that's right.
With the development.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, then fair enough. That's
under car wash as well.
No, then fine.
Thank you, Madam. Sorry, what Councillor Bourne was saying. Can that 1.4 be gone through comparison with the neighbourhood plan, please, so we don't get in a bit of a conflict? But a lot of it is dealt with by neighbourhood plan and other places now.
I think that's the only one. Chinkton Field, obviously.
Tybur's got certain protection anyway.
It's within the national park.
Who actually owns it as such, though?
It's just County Council, I believe. I don't know.
Yeah, this is what I mean. This list is a little bit for us to make.
It's not designated in the neighbourhood plan as anything else other than what it is now. So whereas the pub that was mentioned is designated as being in effect demolished.
I mean, Lander Valley Dip, do you mean the, what they call the bit further up on Princess Drive, you mean that? What do you mean Lander Valley Dip? That's a bit generic.
I don't know that I was new when this was 2012.
Yeah, that may be at Surrey Road, because I was around when this was done.
Okay.
But I'm just wondering if this should go back to planning highways and certainly, and
detailed
safety.
It's a bit hard.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Madam.
Do you want to delegate the power to planning highways to deal with it?
I'll do that then.
If you delegate it, absolutely.
I'll propose that we delegate.
I'm just thinking it'll save time to.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I'll delegate.
Okay, thank you. Does that apply to sector? Thank you. So we'll have.
Shall I get them to deal with the?
Can I ask a question? Is it possible for us to delegate, not to delegate, to ask the teacher to deal with it and then to bring the report back to council?
No, what it'll be in the minutes.
It'll be in the minutes.
Which you get back.
Okay.
So you'll see in the minutes what their decision was.
Yeah, I'm not very happy with that. It's way too late to shift it.
Well, it's too late to change it, absolutely, but the whole idea is to delegate it, so that it's not backwards and forwards several times.
I mean, planning and highways handled this the first time round, and now, it's a few years on, and I think I feel it needs revising. And so, I mean, all members can fit, sort of feedback to planning before it comes to committee. we can take that on board. Okay? So can I have a show of hands that we delegate this to Planning and Highways Committee? That's right. Those against? Thank you.
Sam, you need to turn up at that meeting.
There's a space on the...
Object.
Sam, there's a space on the plan.
Yeah.
Attend as a member of the public.
Yeah, and object, yeah.
Right, so agenda item 17, football club lease, pages 126 to 127.
Chair, as you know, we tidying up a number of leases at the moment. This is one that hopefully gets dealt with. We've been in touch with the club, they've been in touch with us. They're wanting to extend the lease to enable them to apply for funding in the same way that the Bowls Club did recently very successfully. So the recommendation of the report is that their rent is brought in line with the Bowls Club, what they pay, which is £12.75, and that they've given the lease for a period of 39 years, which again ties it in with what the Bowls Club have got next door.
Are they aware of that new information?
Yes, I've emailed them to give them that information, and didn't back now, so I didn't hear anything back. But that was several weeks back, and I told them I've sent them a copy of this report as well, so they're fully aware of it.
Councillor Jonathan.
Madam Mayor, on matters relating to the football club, I had in fact taken my eye off the ball somewhat, if you'll forgive the pun, but it was my belief that up until very recently, certainly, the football club had an outstanding debt with the council. Has that now been paid off?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes. Simon's good at getting debts, told you that.
It was a debt of some considerable...
It was, yeah, they finished it, it's actually quite a while ago, I think, 18 months, maybe. Yeah, it is paid off though, yeah, definitely. Because they applied for it, I don't know if you recall, they applied for a grant, and the decision was they couldn't have grants obviously until they paid the debt. And then they paid the debt.
Councillor Brown.
Madam Mayor, bearing in mind what Councillor Berkeley just said, can we be sure that the football club's financially able to pay this extra rent? You know, they'll get into trouble again and we'll end up with a big debt.
I think you're in a difficult position if you charge them any less than the Bowls Club next door.
But they're doing
Well, the football club has got a lot more members than the Bowls Club. You know, I think the Bowls Club's about 110. As it says in here, they've got 270 kids playing, 260 kids, 60 adult members, 580 social members, so they've got nearly solid 587 pay subs. So we've got a lot more potentially.
not necessarily a lot more money.
Yeah, but as I say, we've sent them a copy of the report and everything, and I sent them this a few weeks ago, and there's been no response to say that's a problem from them.
Can we follow it up?
Well, afterwards we will be when they get the lease, yeah. We don't, no. You can,
I'm not against the football club, please don't think that, I'm not against it, I think it should be there, and it's a good thing. You know, we've already had problems financially with the football club, the Paris movement.
I've got Councillor Baldwin next.
Madam Chair, Councillor Latham and Councillor Hannigan, come back to me as well.
Councillor Lothar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think had the football club had a longer lease, it might not have got into debt in the first place. And the reason they got into debt was because they were not able to apply for funds or unsuccessfully apply for funds. So I'm in favour of the longer lease. I think they are good tenants principally, and they've been there a long time. And I don't see that there's going to be a difficulty problem again, because they've actually handled the problem they had in a very responsible way. So, or fairly responsible way. So I propose that we accept this proposal. Let's hope they came out United soon.
Just that's down to find a seconder. Thank you. Councillor White.
Thank you. It's more a point of ignorance than anything else. Madam Mayor, I'm not up to date with the current arrangement we have with the football club. I I do know that when those lights went in, they went in because they went up a league and it was demanded of them, and that there was a right old hoo-ha with residents who had knowingly bought next to a football club, but what they thought was a lovely little town pitch and not anything that was going anywhere. I really remember that because that was a very difficult period. Can I just ask please for clarity, if there are to be any other alterations to the pitch or the stands or the facilities, do we still have right of, does it come back to us, or will this contract give them the right to just do it?
This lease is just for the clubhouse, so the rest of the site is still in our control.
Right,
So if they want to change anything in the pitch or around the pitch, we have to agree to that.
thank you.
Yeah. And if they change the clubhouse in terms of planning, again, we have to agree to it as well anyway, with the lease.
Thank you. It usually comes to community services.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
hasn't come right.
Councillor Homer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whoops. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, what Councillor White was saying, I mean, summer months when there's not much activity, are you allowed other events there if you want to do that? Is that allowed in the course of the contract? Because we often say there's lack of green spaces.
Yeah.
People like to do other sometimes the salts and mortello is not always appropriate. I don't know if that's advertised as such and members of the community are aware of that.
There's no reason why, other than we'd have to be careful we didn't damage the playing surface, obviously.
Yeah.
In theory, no, because the lease is just for the clubhouse.
Mm.
So the same as the cricket club, their lease is just for the clubhouse. The rugby club is just for the clubhouse.
Mm.
All of the grassed areas are still in the control of the council. So we're looking at a clause at the moment in the rugby club lease, which we're trying to resolve with the RFU, but they've got rid of all their staff. It's difficult to resolve it, to say that within the lease that we will not unreasonably withhold use of the pitch when requested. The reason for that is they want to get a grant, and the RFU is saying you have to have a lease for the ground as well. Well, we can't lease the ground to them because it's a shared area for the cricket as well. And the cricket won't be very happy because they're being longer than the rugby, and they'll say, well, we want the land. So they already have. So it's difficult. But all of the leases are just for the buildings that we have with the clubs. Same with the balls. The balls don't lease the green, they just lease the clubhouse.
So in theory, you could do some sort of summer event there if you wanted to.
You could do anything there, yeah.
There's quite a lot of space if you include a bit around the corner.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why I throw that in, thank you.
Just a clarification if I may. You're referring to Seaford Bowls Club, I take it you mean the one in Bletchington Road?
No, Crouch.
Which should be the Crouch Bowls Club.
Oh, sorry, it says the Crouch wrong here. Sorry, in 1.6, I'm looking at 1.6. Where does it say Seaford? Crouch.
It says Seaford Bowls Club.
Oh, it does, you're right in the recommendation. I beg your pardon. Yeah, it should be the Crouch Sports Club.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Adeniji, sorry.
Just two questions, 2 points, please. Just following on from the point raised by Councillor Odinman, I would caution against trying to use that. I mean, I get quite a few complaints from residents living in Bramble Lane and the road, and I think they've had to put in double yellow lines, and they've had problems last year, especially when on football days where they couldn't get ambulances or people back. So it's just I would caution against trying to use that for public events, because again I think residents living closer are very concerned, and they do get issues. And as a ward councillor, I do get almost at least every year you get about a few letters from residents saying we've got issues here. Following on from that, though, I was just trying to understand from what the town clerk was saying, are we able to use the football pitch there for other football activities in the town? Or is it?
No, it can be used by anybody, but it's fully booked by Seaford Town Football Club.
Not 7 days a week?
Not 7 days a week, no. But you've got to bear in mind that the grass pitch has a capacity of how many matches you can put out without affecting quality. So it's not like a 4G one where you can play as much as you like and it doesn't matter. So there is a limit on how many games you do play on the pitches. The recommendation from the FA is 1.5 games a week. Okay. We play more than that.
Yeah, obviously I've supported what Councillor Baker said. Just quickly, did they actually get the level sorted out up there? Because I know there was complaints about the level playing.
As far as I'm aware, they haven't come back to us with any issues with that. I know they were working with Bailey's to sort. I think it was 2 years ago from memory, because both the rugby and the cricket had issues. But the last 18 months, the contract has been excellent.
And there used to be a, I think it's a Lions Club, used to be a Donkey Derby there or something years ago. Anyone remember that? So, like, you know, maybe something could be done later on some point. Thanks.
All right.
Right, proposal on the table to agree the council entering into a new lease for the Crouch Football Clubhouse and the Seaboard Town Council Football Club at the new rental of £1,275 per annum, reviewed every 5 years on the basis of the same lease recently agreed with the Seaboard Bowls Club for a period of 39 years. It's been proposed by Councillor Latham and seconded by Councillor Foreman. Can I have a show of hands, please? That's unanimous, thank you.
And it is known that it should be the Crouch Board Club. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so thank you. I'll declare this meeting at 6 minutes past 9.